Hey there, welcome to episode 84 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 1:49 in the afternoon, probably 1:50 by the time we realize what time it is. On this Tuesday, June 17th, 2025, we'll publish this on Wednesday, June 18th. Every Wednesday, a new episode of Quaggling Sand. If you're new to quaggling sand, you may not know this. Quaggling sand is a technical term. It refers to a condition when circulation returns to a limb, a hand, an arm, an ankle, a leg, a foot. When circulation has been blocked, maybe you fell asleep on one of these limbs or were sitting funny, as they say. When circulation returns, you will feel the quaggling sand effect. Some people refer to this as the pins and needles. But rest assured, it is quaggling sand. This audio program is essentially audio essays, tales, stories, recollections by yours truly, your host, Dan Hugo. That's me. Could be anything. Probably not going to be any guests, but you never know. Today, the title and topic, Stairs and Me. It makes me laugh just thinking about it. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, a brief summary of which I'll read to you, and the 4 shameless self-promotion links. I rarely do this. I don't think I really do it at all for any of my audio programs, but the cover art for today's episode is a photo from the 70s, I think. Nice black and white. It is Hickson Court, the stairs in question for the second story of today's episode. Where it happened, although many years prior. 20 years prior, give or take. Anyway, let's get started so we can get finished on this lovely Tuesday so that you may listen on Wednesday or sometime after. I've had a few tangles with stairs. The stairs often win when we do tangle. Usually it's a draw, particularly in these two scenarios. The usual shameless self-promotion links. You do not have to spend any money. You're under no obligation to whip out your credit card or do anything really. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo and the Buy Me an Update audio program published on Mondays, available exclusively on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts. That would be a 5-minute retrospective. Previous week's audio programs, a quick rundown, and any news or announcements or whatever's coming up. The buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page contains links to all of my audio programs, various projects, my affiliate links pointing to my favorite coffee beans, the Nasal Fresh, which I need to do again today, and there's a couple other things, some biographical information and a link to the posts. Ko-fi.com/DanHugo, that's ko-fi.com/DanHugo. The more interesting part perhaps, coffee solo. Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo/posts. It is an unscheduled, whenever, wherever, whatever, no constrained topics. Could be about anything. They could be 20 minutes or 2 days. You never know. Coffee Solo. The hyphen, ko-fi. The hyphen key is usually next to the 0 on the top row of your QWERTY or maybe similar keyboard. If you use a different kind of keyboard, I can't help you. Ko-fi.com/DanHugo. Check those out. No obligation to spend any money. I use these to engage, to reach out to my audience. That would be you. In general, I do not recall each and every time. Already a typo. Each and every time. I do not recall each and every time. But there are stories floating around concerning my occasional inability to negotiate stairs, particularly when traveling down them. This was mostly true when I was very young and when the home in which we lived had a basement and an attic with normal staircases leading to them from the main floor. Not to mention a classic concrete stoop, outside the front door with about 4 big steps and some steel railings. Always keep an eye out for those railings. I do not have what one might call great balance. I am not good on a skateboard, for example. In fact, pretty bad. I have become fairly adept at using stairs over the years, with practice, of course, though, so that I try to use them whenever I can, if for no other reason than to practice and exert that little extra bit of energy that we do not when we take an elevator. If there are stairs, take them. Well, leave them, but use them. I will usually grab a railing if there is one, even passively, because who knows what could happen. Railings are underrated. If you have access to one, I highly recommend you take advantage. There is no shame in using them. You don't look silly using a railing, but you might look silly in a ball at the bottom of the stairs. Or worse, it might look even worse than that. The recent mishap, I've mentioned this briefly, I think, today as I'm speaking, it's been 3 weeks and almost 7 hours. So 3 weeks ago at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, I was taking a box of broken down boxes to the recycled dumpster we have where I live. Thanks Amazon Vine. I still have more boxes, by the way. I backed off a little bit on that effort, but I need to get back to recycling. I donned my gym clothes, intending to continue after dropping the box into the dumpster onto a walk around the neighborhood to start the day. I usually, if I go out and wander around a little bit, I get about 3 miles of walking. I try to go almost every day, if not every day. I was holding the box in front of me with both hands, and there was a small case of 4 stairs to descend to get to the parking garage level. They're basically leveling stairs. The floor of the building is 4 steps higher than the floor of the parking structure. So I was holding the box, and I was taking the steps. There's a car ramp to descend to the ground level where the dumpster and then my exit awaited. So I was, as usual, I've negotiated this pathway many, many, many times. There are 4 steps. I connected squarely with 3 of them. I believe once I came to rest and sat back up on one of the stairs, that was in a minor state of shock, or its beginnings, a little disoriented, dizzy, not feeling well. The pain was quite intense, and had I decided to call for emergency assistance of some kind, there were no people around at this early hour. It was only 7 o'clock after all. I would probably have suggested a possible break. Like if I had called 911, I would have said, I fell on some stairs. I think I might have broken my right leg somewhere. Luckily, things were not so dire once I sort of shook it off, if you like, once I got my wits about me. And in fact, I did bring the box to the dumpster before returning home to deal with this. So I was able to limp, very pronounced limp, to get to the dumpster. So already I was thinking, if I'm able to move like this, it can't be that awful. Now, I will say that while I was sitting on the steps, I pressed on, it was my right leg, still is. I pressed on the right side of my leg because I was trying to determine where the injuries were. My fibula moved. That's no fun. It just felt like it was moving. Now, I've done my share of chiropractic, everything, so I'm not totally oblivious to the notion that our various bones and joints and whatnot they're not rigid. So some movement was not, it wasn't shocking. I was concerned the left fibula was not moving like this, but it was not painful necessarily. It just was moving. So I thought, okay, so either it's broken and I haven't started feeling any pain from this yet, or it's something else. So I was pushing on the lower part of my right leg, the upper part of the lower right leg, so I could feel the fibula moving a little bit. The fibula is the smaller bone in your shin. The tibia is the one that gets all the attention. And as I would learn soon after, the tibia typically takes 83% of the load, whatever that load is on that leg, and the fibula is 17%. So you're not necessarily out of commission, although I should not have been able to walk without pain. I was walking with pain, but was it my fibula? Was it the bones? Or was it more my ankle? So I brought the box to the dumpster, walked back home, put some ice on my leg, and I figured, okay, I should probably go to the hospital there's an urgent care across the street from where I live. Literally, like I would have been closer to it if I didn't go back home. But it was literally like another 100 yards from the dumpster across the street. So could have just walked right over there. But why do that? I had had some knee pain in recent months. While out walking one evening, I came upon what appeared to be a fairly new adjustable metal cane with a new looking grip. I mean, it looked right out of the box, if there is a box for a cane. And the tip that comes in contact with the floor looked like it was brand new also. It may have been replaced. It's hard to say. It was leaning against the dumpster, and actually there were 2 canes where I found this. The second one didn't look as new, so I figured, I guess somebody's getting rid of these. So I grabbed the newer one with my aching knee making me think I might need one at some point. I never actually used it, So I brought it home, leaned it against the wall, tucked it away. So I figured, well, if I need it, it's here. This would come in quite handy 3 weeks ago as I decided to walk across the street to the urgent care facility. So I came home, ice, elevated, thought about what to do. That was at 7, a little after 7 a.m. By 8 a.m., I figured, okay, I should just walk over there and see what happens. Now, the reason I thought this was maybe a good idea was that I could stand on my leg. I could lift my left leg off the ground, my left foot, and I could stand for a short period of time. It hurt, but I figured, okay, if this was broken, I don't think this would be happening. I think I would be tipped over, passing out perhaps. This should hurt a lot more than it does. So I figured, okay, I'll walk over there. Maybe there's something that should be x-rayed, or I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. I walked over there. By the time I got there, I was thinking, I think if I can walk here, it's probably not that bad. I will say that when I was tumbling down one step, so it wasn't very long, but I did hear like a popping noise. This is why I initially thought maybe I broke something, but I don't know what a broken bone and a popping noise. I don't know where they would converge. There was no discolor. Well, I didn't do anything in urgent care. I walked back home. I figured, well, it will be costly and probably painful, but ultimately they're probably going to tell me that I didn't break anything. Why? There was no discoloration, no substantial pain when pressed. I found that I could actually rotate slowly and carefully my foot. So I was able to rotate the fibula about the tibia as one normally does. Now I didn't do this standing, putting weight on it and putting torque around my ankle. I'm guessing at the time that would have hurt, probably quite a bit. But I was able to move my ankle around, lift my foot off the ground, move my foot clockwise, counterclockwise, moving my foot in different angles. And I said, okay, none of this should be possible if there's a broken bone in here. I didn't hear any noises of bones moving around. But seriously, this was not broadcasting broken ankle, broken bone. I figured this is probably a really bad sprain at this point. I had a small scrape or abrasion on my right kneecap. My shin was, at this point now, we're a couple of hours in, a little bit of swelling. It felt like warm. So I figured, well, that's probably normal. There's an injury, but still no discoloration, no bruising. My ankle did not get huge. Sometimes if people sprain their ankle, it looks like they should just cut it off. It's pretty bad. None of that. So I figured, this still doesn't look that bad. So when I walked to urgent care, I walked back. I figured, okay, well, it's not that bad, clearly. And that has proved to be true. So the fibula was moving around when I pressed on it. It did give me some concern at the time, but it was probably my ankle injured. If it was like a ligament or tendon issue. And given the fact that I was able to move fairly pain-free, I mean, considering what had just happened, it was essentially pain-free. But within the day, and certainly within days, I found that I was able to move, I could move my toes, I could move my foot through a reasonable range of motion. I didn't feel any stuck points. I didn't feel like shooting pain from a potential ligament tear. I didn't feel limited range of motion from maybe a swollen ankle. It wasn't even that swollen. It was visibly swollen, but not much, not as much as I would have thought. So generally speaking, I was thinking this should be worse. It felt like it should be worse, but it apparently is not. So all this was giving me a better sense of what was happening. So over the last week, so week 3 of the 3 weeks, I've been walking a fair bit. In early days, I was walking with the cane. So that first day I walked super slowly to urgent care with cane the whole way. I've been walking to get the mail. I walked to the grocery store, cane, elevator, cane. Crossing the street takes a while. In this case, having a cane was probably better so that people could see that I was not just trying to waste their time. Like I'm literally limping. This is not totally easy, but it wasn't overly painful. It was painful because now I'm trying to walk faster, got the cane to balance and so on. But generally speaking, I was like, okay, this is all progressing nicely. Every day is leg day. So walking is sort of tiring, but ultimately worthwhile. They always, old wisdom was rest, ice, compression, elevation. and it would be just rest your leg, rest your ankle. But because there was no break, and because it was not swollen or discolored, not swollen to a troubling degree, just a little bit swelling. Right now, my ankle looks like maybe, I haven't taken any measurements, but maybe a little swollen. And because it does still kind of hurt a little bit, I think we're still recovering. But I think mostly now it's down to the muscles around my ankle, the tendons. Anyway, I've been walking more, and more of that walking is with less use of the cane. I still carry it with me just in case, because I don't want to tip over if I lose my balance, or if I twist my foot in a strange way or something. It still feels like I should be caring for it, I guess you could say, gingerly, treating it gingerly. And so I mostly have been taking few risks. I've not been trying to push it too far. And so every day I've had general improvement as far as I can tell. I think it was last Friday. So 5 days ago, I walked more than I had up until that point on any given day. So I figured, okay, I'm doing well in that regard. I can walk and it's not killing me. But then later Friday and then early Saturday, it felt like I was working out one leg only. So I felt it was very tired. And anyway, so I'm telling you this because the stairs may have thought they won, but slowly but surely making the comeback. I've even negotiated the stairs outside to get down to the street level. There are 4 stairs, again, 4, the lucky number. And if I'm careful and I use the cane to balance, I'm able to take the stairs very slowly. By the way, you really start to notice when some people are very courteous. Some people offer like, oh, do you need any help with anything? And, oh, no, I appreciate it, but thank you, no, I'm good. Other people couldn't be bothered. They don't want to have to wait behind you, so they dart around and stuff. It kind of makes you think, when you see somebody who's having challenges when they're moving around, to maybe ask them if they need help with something, or don't make them feel like they're blocking you. So I found I proactively get out of people's way, and they're like, oh, thank you. But anyway, it's something to think about. It's an interesting experience to have that eye-opening every once in a while. But the real fun, that's only my recent story. The real fun is the koi pond, and that's in the cover art. Way back when I was in college, the academic end of the campus included a split staircase, one main flight coming down to the first landing, and then split 3 flights per side, and it wrapped around some ornaments and some plant life on the walls and so on, down to the courtyard level, which had a koi pond, some other ornaments, and some planters and so on. So a quaint little area. It was where one would find some tables and chairs and a coffee or tea, both, cart, maybe some what do you call it? Some bagels. I think they had bagels and maybe some donuts in the morning, coffee in the afternoon. Anyway, so we would go down these stairs to go to the lectures in the morning. Freshman and junior, this is my first year in college. The freshman and sophomore classes, if they had lectures, they would be in the lecture halls on on the ground floor, if you will, the first basement, I guess. I don't know how that would, I guess, yeah, first basement. So, yeah, frequently down at that end of the campus, negotiating the stairs frequently. Everything was fine. I rarely took the elevator here at this point. There was an elevator, actually probably 3 or 4 elevators that could be gotten to fairly quickly. So an accessible courtyard, but again, I usually prefer to take stairs if I can. So there we go. Given that they were fairly large steps, you can probably see them somewhat in the photo if you do take a chance. Take the opportunity and look. I did not have any particular difficulty, and so I would not make consistent use of the railings, unfortunately. I usually had a clipboard in my hand also, at least a clipboard. I did not have any particular difficulty, mostly. I also did not tend to rush up or down these stairs. So it was usually, got a few minutes to get to class, grab a coffee or a tea in the morning. No rush. One evening, however, call it 9 or 10 p.m., I was down at the academic end of the campus doing this or that. This is our first year in Mud, so nothing too crazy. Honestly, we were probably printing something, or who knows. It was doing first-year student things. And the 3 of us, Dino, Kevin, and I, exited at that courtyard level from the academic buildings to ascend the stairs and head back to our dorm. West dorm, if you're curious. I had heard that some koi in the pond were dying in the pond. They were they weren't jumping out and dying on the ground. So where Kevin and Dean were already heading up the stairs, I walked around the pond once and saw no floaters. I remember saying like, "Oh, I'm going to see if I see any koi floating around." So I walked quickly to catch up and took the stairs with my clipboard in hand as usual. I may have tried to take 2 stairs in an initial or maybe the second step. May have tried to jump up one extra one, a little bonus. It may have been some water on the ground or maybe just my rush to catch up, but I'm fairly certain 1 foot, not one food. Who does this typing? Jeez. 1 foot hit the front edge, like the corner of a step, and slipped down, sending me rolling forward. To break my fall, I extended my non-clipboard hand, my right hand, and ended up hitting one of the steps with my right ring finger. I hit it squarely on the step's vertical front. I mean, these were, if you look at the picture, they're not like bricks. The steps are not parallelograms. I think it was a kind of a rounded thing, but essentially I hit the vertical side of the step. If I had hit the horizontal, the step part of the step would not have been as bad, but I hit the vertical edge of the step with my right ring finger. All that momentum, P equals MV. That was bad. So I basically jammed my fingernail back into my finger from what I could tell, I guess, which immediately led to arterial bleeding. How do I know this, you might be wondering? Dean came down the steps and helped me up. I grabbed my right finger with my left hand and applied pressure. So Kevin went down to retrieve my clipboard. And because it was nighttime, it was not immediately obvious, but there were landing lights on, at various steps. Is that still, those are step lights? Footlights. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. So he could see thanks to these lights. And he looks up and says, "Hey, there's a lot of blood here." So blood was shooting out my finger, hence arterial blood. We walked back to the dorm a couple of 100 yards, all the while remaining conscious, but fingers have plenty of nerve endings, and they were all sending me alarms. Hey, this hurts. So I was like, it started throbbing, and it was not good. So Dean was making sure I didn't fall over, but I was pretty ambulatory. That was not the problem. When we reached the dorm, the first stop was our proctor's room upstairs. Kevin had given him a quick rundown. He was up ahead of us. And when Dean and I reached the top of the stairs where his room was, ironically, he directed me to his bathroom so he could have a look and wash away the blood and the dirt and whatnot. Now, Kevin had said Dan hurt his hand, so that's all Torsten really knew, and I arrived. My finger was throbbing, so I sat on the floor of his bathroom, and the sink was it was a wall sink, so there was no base, there's no pedestal, so it was just attached to the wall. So I sat under there, and I put my hand over my head so it wouldn't throb so much. But before I sat down, I released my finger from my hand, and he opens my left hand. My left hand's covered with blood. The palm, the fingers, everything, because I'm holding the right hand, which is where the blood is coming from. And he says, "What happened?" And I said, "No, it's my finger." And he looks at my finger and said, "Ooh, that looks worse," which it probably did. So I sat under the sink, put my hand over into the sink. He washed it off, put a light dressing on. It was very, very, very sensitive, and it was kind of messed up. Like there was some damage from the impact. And there's, again, a lot of nerve endings there. That was fun. So we got that all sorted. I went to try to go to sleep. It was profoundly painful. It's amazing how just one finger does go a long way. I went to the student health center in the morning. That was always, the health center was always interesting. They had me submerge my finger in something that looked like iodine, some sort of a sanitary solution, disinfectant perhaps, maybe. Who knows what. The joke was that I dunked my finger in a shot glass and that fixed it. Not completely true. They examined it and they dressed it. Now, here was the fun part, and this is, I guess, where you really want to go to where the people are trained for these sorts of things. From what I recall, and I do recall, they did not dress the wound, the injury, with a non-stick layer first. So they just put what was essentially gauze-like, directly onto the injury and then wrapped it with some tape or some other, like a Band-Aid type thing. So about 2 days later, when I went to remove this, to change, to clean, etc., it was a quick reminder about those nerves in the fingers. I remember it being profoundly painful. It felt like I was going to rip off part of my finger. So it took a while. Basically, I had to dunk it in water and try to let the dressing separate from my dried blood and whatever else was going on in there. So good times. I think we all encounter this a bit with the opportunity. Every opportunity for me to bump my finger into something was there for me to take advantage of. From ironically, railings, going up and down stairs, to doorknobs, to whatever else. If I could hit it with my finger, I did. For a solid week, or maybe part of 2, lowering my hand below like heart level would lead to painful throbbing in my finger. It was just my regular blood flow, your heart beating. You can feel it in your finger. And in that case, I could most definitely feel it. It was very, very uncomfortable. This, coupled with the fact that this was my right hand, I am a right-handed person, made writing or doing most normal things difficult than it was, if I recall correctly, coming up on either midterms or finals or something. So that made for some negotiating with professors, like, can I take this later in the week? Whatever it actually came. It was fine. That part ended up being okay. Just, something to deal with. Eventually, I would heal. My finger completely usable and functional, though my right ring finger is noticeably thicker than my left. Not, inches thicker, but if you compare them, something happened. You can tell. It's not ridiculous, but it's definitely noticeable. Most likely scar tissue, I guess, in there, but who really knows? I can still use my finger. It doesn't hurt. The fingernail grows. It isn't discolored. It's just odd. My finger had an injury, and so it's slightly different. This was arguably worse. It's hard to say exactly how worse. A lot more nerves in your fingertips, especially that one, than in a leg. It was easier to see a path for recovery from my leg injury from 3 weeks ago, since I was able to just be up and around essentially slowly and carefully, but I was up and around fairly quickly afterwards. With this finger injury, the first week or two, like I said, it was throbbing and it was painful, and I had to have it dressed with something. Otherwise it was leaking, I guess you could say. There was a little bit of bleeding, and then there was some, I don't know what was coming out of my finger. It was basically during the recovery, and I would clean it frequently. I think after the first outing with the direct contact dressing and how painful that was, I tried to keep it from being completely closed, like taped up and whatnot. But that would have helped when I was making contact with things. Unfortunately, I'll give you an example. Coming down the stairs in our dorm, there was no elevator, 2-story dorm. So coming down the steps, luckily I was on the ground floor, but if I happened to be upstairs, coming down the steps, the railings for the staircase were attached to the cinder blocks with bolts, as you would expect. So there were attachment points for the railing. So if I was walking down the steps using the railing, and if I wasn't paying attention, I would hit my finger, and of course, not other fingers, just that one finger, on the piece of the railing that was attached to the wall. I did that a few times. So I would say the hand injury from missing that one step was practically worse, and specifically painfully worse, even though the injury from 3 weeks ago, also from one step, has been more impactful just because it limited my mobility so much. I can't go walking 3 miles and going to the gym and so on. I've been much more careful and slowed down. Now, I wouldn't have been able to go to the gym with my throbbing finger. That would have been too painful, but the throbbing went away, like I said, in a week or two. Here we're going on 3 weeks. So, But stairs. I have helped people move furniture up and down stairs. In general, I have had to contend with my own stairs and moving my own stuff, sometimes heavy. I basically moved myself out of my apartment in Sunnyvale when I moved to a different place. So, everything I own was pretty easily solo movable, but it was a staircase involved. So I was able to do that fairly free from incident. And generally speaking, I've negotiated many staircases and stairs successfully, but then every once in a while one gets through, as has 3 weeks ago. I can make it safely as long as I'm paying attention. Will I carry a box of Amazon boxes in front of me going downstairs again soon? Probably not. There's 2 stories here of examples of what happens when I am not paying attention. So you would think I would learn from the first one. Maybe I'll learn from the second one. We'll see. I'm probably lucky that I've not tumbled down the stairs, which I think I did when I was maybe 2 years old. But 2-year-olds are made of rubber, right? So whichever direction I was intending to go, I've not really tumbled downstairs, resulting in substantial injury. I could always hit my head on something, for example. That would be really bad. Or really breaking something would be really bad. Really breaking my head open would be really bad. But I probably have a couple more decades to test that. We'll see. As long as I remain ambulatory, I don't plan on giving up stairs. In the meantime, the stairs are good exercise. And movement is rarely a bad thing. Movement is life, if you're a fan of Up in the Air, the movie. Ryan Bingham. Not a lot of good ideas from that guy, but that one's a good one. Not giving up on the stairs anytime soon. Hopefully they feel the same way about me. So that's my quick recollection of two most noteworthy tangles with steps that did not go well for me, but ultimately I'm going to guess that both will have ended well. I emerge victorious. I prefer to not be injured, so there's got to be some sort of steps life balance. But in the meantime, I've been taking the elevator a lot, and that's kind of annoying. So it does give a fresh perspective, though, on how everything is really geared more towards fully ambulatory people. That's always something to think about, maybe reflect on a little bit. So that's all I know. And today's episode looks like it's going to come in just around a half hour, which is nice. Nice for everybody. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you, as always, for listening. And be sure and tell a friend how fascinating the Quaggling Sand audio program is and how they should all be listening wherever you find your podcasts. On that note, thank you. Until next week, I'm the guy walking, holding on to the cane, hopefully not using it. Take care.